Hello Sorcerer Goons, my name is Alex, and today I have a very special video for you guys. So, we've all had a what if this character did this, or what if I wrote their adventures sort of thing, right? Well, Pokemon is no exception. Many people online have done this before, whether they, upload the stories to a reading website, they did other videos like this one. We've all done it before. But I wanted to throw my hat into the ring, so to speak, and basically tell you what I would have done for Ash's team. Not specifically the whole adventure, but any roster changes and very, very specific story beats. So, with that said, I'll be going over Ash's Kanto adventure along with his Orange Islands, because let's be honest with ourselves here, the Orange Islands was more like an offshoot region that was kinda in Kanto water, because there was a lot of Kanto Pokemon there and nothing exclusive. So, that said, you may want to grab a snack, because I don't know how long this one's gonna be, but I do hope that you enjoy it regardless. But before we begin, I have a very small favor to ask of you guys. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and comment down below. And above all, please subscribe for more content. That will really help the channel grow and do a lot more stuff like this. Also, if you have any changes that you would make to Ash's roster, please let me know in the comments down below. But bear in mind to keep it respectful. Don't call me a moron or anything, because that doesn't solve anything. Okay? Okay. So, before moving on to the actual team, I think it's important to go over who we are getting rid of first, because they're oftentimes the weak link to any team, right? So, the first Pokemon to go from Ash's anime team is Kingler. Let's be honest with ourselves, you even forgot Ash had this thing, because he didn't use it a lot. Really, he used it in his first Indigo League match where it swept through an entire team by luck. It managed to take down a Cloyster, and that was it. He didn't use it again until Johto in a water conference to win a Mystic Water, which he didn't even win. So, because of all this, Kingler is off the chopping block. Next up on the chopping block is Ash's 30 Tauros. Seriously, 30 of these things? I get that it was the joke of the episode, but why? Couldn't he just, at least 29 of them? Anyway, for context, there was an episode in the original anime involving the Safari Zone, which in the games is an area where you could catch exclusive Pokemon. Well, not exclusive, but exotic Pokemon. And a running gag in that episode was that every time Ash tried to catch something new, a random Tauros would just run in front of the ball and be captured. Now, America, at least, never got this episode because a character kept threatening our heroes at gunpoint, and that's not exactly made for American children, so they had to scrap that episode. But future episodes claim that this episode did happen because when Ash goes back to Pallet Town, Oak says that 30 of the Pokemon that Ash caught were Tauros from the Safari Zone, and we never saw that happen. So because of that, along with it being kind of difficult to tell which Tauros is which, I am excluding Tauros from this particular roster. Well, now that's our notes out of the way, let's get on to the ones that actually made the cut. Starting off with everyone's favorite little lightning rat, Pikachu. Really not much changes with him. He's Ash's best friend, his partner. But how they start out is what I wanted to change. Just hear me out here, okay? Now, in retrospect, I think Ash could have been written to have had autism. It's basically a social disorder that makes communication difficult, and a symptom of it is that they're drawn to very niche ideas. And I would know this because I actually have it, so don't at me on that one. And because Ash takes time to learn and understand Pikachu, Pikachu lightens up around him a lot quicker. And this time he agrees to be with Ash rather than, strike it out on his own, so to speak. And this will actually show that Ash has a lot of potential as a trainer. Now, I wanted to go over the starters really quick because there were a lot of people remember each region for, okay? So, let's begin with Bulbasaur. With Bulbasaur, not much changes really. He's still a leader of abandoned Pokemon. He still challenges Ash to basically come along with him, but the real difference is that he encounters him a lot earlier than intended. Because due to bullshit reasons in the anime, Pikachu couldn't fight. So I think Ash should have had a better chance to battle Misty. So there you go. Now after the Orange Islands, Bulbasaur would be the peacemaker in Oak's lab earlier than intended. Because, well, I still like this idea for him, and it also gives Ash a cleaner slate for later on in Johto, which I could do later on if you guys really want to hear about that. Next up is Squirtle. Looking back, Squirtle was a bit of a missed opportunity. Compared to Bulbasaur, he never got a chance to evolve. He was always the comic relief character in a way, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I like the idea of this goofball growing into something better. And in fact, he kind of started out that way because he was the leader of a ragtag bunch of abandoned Squirtle. So, kind of dropped the ball there, I guess. So, during the Orange Islands episode where they encounter a firefighting squadron of Wartortle, Squirtle would evolve trying to escape and would help the squadron put out the fire. He was even offered a position on the team, but Wartortle still decided to stick with Ash because they were friends, partners. And onto the one that Game Freak and Nintendo just can't seem to let go of, Charizard. Now, Ash manages to encounter Charmander the same way he did in the anime, so that part doesn't change. In fact, up until he evolves into a Charmeleon, that's where things slightly change. While traveling to Cinnabar, Ash encounters a trainer who nearly puts out Charmeleon's fire, so he goes over to the Pokemon Center to heal him up, but he does a lot of the same things he did to Charizard in the anime. Once Charmeleon is fully healed the next day, Ash gives Charmeleon a choice. Charmeleon can either stay, or Charmeleon can go find another trainer that's more worthy of him. Because Ash thinks that if he can't get Charmeleon to listen to him, then he's not that great of a trainer. Petrified by this, Charmeleon tails Ash, but he doesn't let them know. So during a fossil expedition, Charmeleon manages to save Ash from Kray's fossil Pokemon, but not Aerodactyl. That is until it evolved into Charizard. After it weakened Aerodactyl enough for Brock to catch it, Charizard brands itself with a mark on its forehead, signifying its loyalty to Ash. Bit of a side note here, I wanted this mark to resemble the one it got as a Charmeleon from the anime because I think that is a very, very nice touch. From here, Charizard would win Ash a lot of battles, such as defeating Blaine's Magmar and in my timeline, being the one to defeat Drake. So, yeah, he's still pretty powerful. Alrighty then, now let's talk about Butterfree, technically the first Pokemon that Ash ever caught. Butterfree's story happens the same way as it does in the anime. It was caught by Ash, it was the first Pokemon to evolve, it evolved to put a flock of Beedrill to sleep, and it participated in many battles for Ash. But during the events of the SSN, Ash grew so fond of Butterfree that he did not trade him. And as a result, he and the others got off of the SSN no worse per wear. But the events of Bye Bye Butterfree still occur. This teaches Ash that sometimes you need to let go of a Pokemon in order for them to be happy. But this would not be the end of Butterfree in my timeline. During the events of the Orange Islands, when Ash and his friends stumble upon the island of pink Pokemon that's protected by law enforcement, Ash encounters Butterfree again, and the two have one last battle together, basically as a final hoorah. Next up is Ash's regional bird, Pidgeot. So right off the bat, I wanted this one to be a little bit different. Instead of Caterpie being the first Pokemon that Ash catches, Pikachu, who's now listening to Ash, manages to capture Pidgey. Now, the reason that I did this one is because I like to think that the same Pidgey that Ash tried to catch in episode 1 and the Pidgeotto that he'll eventually get are the same one. I don't have any proof supporting this, but I like to think of it that way. Pidgey would remain the same as Pidgeotto from the anime, but during the events of Misty's gym battle, it evolved mid-fight, battling Staryu. As the adventure continues, Pidgeotto would learn a few new flying-type moves, such as Aerial Ace for example, and would be used in a lot more matches than the actual anime. On the way to Professor Ivy, Pidgeotto managed to evolve into Pidgeot in order to protect its kind from a flock of Spearow led by the same Fearow that Ash tried to catch in the anime. After battling the flock, Pidgeot realizes it needs to stay with its kind so that way it can protect them. Now, Pidgeot being left by Ash still happens, but a little bit differently. Oak explains that there's plenty of room at his lab, so Pidgeot can bring its whole flock there for added protection, which Pidgeot kindly does, and Ash could call on him now if he wanted to, just not for too long because of anxiety in the flock. Okay, now let's get to another big change, this one being Ash's Primeape. The premise for this episode is the same as it was in the anime. Ash and the gang are having lunch, and Mankey comes by to eat some of Brock's rice balls. I know the joke is that they're rice balls, but that is not dough, that is rice. Do not at me on this one, please. Feeling the need to catch Mankey, Ash decides to throw in a Pokeball. But before he does that, Brock and Misty tell him that he'll need to weaken a Pokemon sometimes in order to catch it. So, Ash then sends in Charmander to weaken Mankey, and he catches it instead of Mankey evolving prematurely. Now, Mankey would have a few battles, such as battling against Erica, for example, and winning that match. Also, when Charmeleon got too out of hand, Mankey would be the one to quell the disorder. But during Ash's first Indigo match, that's when Mankey would evolve into Primeape, and from there, wreck shop with most of the opposition. You still wouldn't use him for every match, but it was there. Now all that's left to talk about are the ones that don't evolve. Starting this final stretch, let's talk about Haunter. Haunter would appear the same way he did in the anime, during the Pokemon Tower, trying to find a ghost to defeat Sabrina, but instead of tagging along with Ash, he would have been officially caught by him. However, after Sabrina's rematch, Ash realized that she needed Haunter more than he did, because Haunter was the first one to make her laugh and technically be a friend. But Sabrina sweetened the deal by not only keeping Haunter, but allowed Ash to call on him whenever he needed him. Muck remains virtually unchanged from the anime because I really love Muck's personality. He just wants a hug, guys, come on. In the Orange League, Ash's first Pokemon caught in the Orange Islands would be Lapras. Her story still remains unchanged. She's been separated from her pod, she wants to go back, and she does at the end of the league. Snorlax also remains unchanged. He was pretty powerful and was caught to save an island from a food shortage. And now for the final Pokemon that Ash caught for this region, Rhydon. For context, there was an episode in the Orange Islands that centered around an island of larger than normal Pokemon. In this episode, one of the highlights was Snorlax punching a Rhydon. In my timeline, instead of Snorlax punching it into orbit, he used Ice Punch and Ash caught the thing. Rhydon's whole personality is that it's a friendly giant. It just took on a mean persona because of the island it inhabited. It would also grow a brotherly bond with Snorlax, saying, "Hey dude, nice punch back there. Aw, thanks man." It would also serve as Bulbasaur's second in command whenever Ash would go to Johto, because you'd behave too if you were threatened by a bipedal rhino. And that does it for Ash's Kanto team. I appreciate you guys sticking around this long. It's been a different video than what I normally do, but I do have one more thing to announce before we go. If this video can get 10 measly likes, then I'll be sure to do a Johto team for Ash. So, if you want to see that, you know what to do. Okay guys, so until next time, reach for the stars.